Welcome many and everyone to this session of the 7th edition of the Plural Positivity World Conference. This session is presented by Brassbergs, covering important and sensitive topics including hallucinations. Please remember to prioritize your self-care during this session. You're encouraged to take breaks whenever needed and honor your collective emotional well-being. If you have questions for the presenter, please share them under the Questions tab so they can be addressed during the live Q&A. Afterward, we warmly invite you to visit this presenter's booth, where you'll find helpful PDFs and additional free resources. Now, without further ado, it is my honor and pleasure to introduce our wonderful presenter to you all. Here is Brassbergs.
Trigger warnings for this presentation. Mentions of Buddhism. Mentions of Tulpa possession. Loneliness. Smoking/cigarettes. Mentions of witchcraft. General stigma over plurality. Welcome to Tulpamancy through the eyes of plurality presentation. I am Serpent of the PNG Brassbergs system, and I will be your host today. This is my first time presenting, so sorry if I struggle a bit with English. It's my second language. Also sorry for the strong accent. I hope it's not an issue. Introduction. Before hopping into Tulpamancy, let me tell you a little bit more about us. As stated earlier, we are the PNG Brassbergs system, here to talk about Tulpamancy. We are 25 years old and trans, female to male or FTM, and our pronouns are he, they. We have 8 tulpas in total, which are very active in everyday life. On top of that, we have 50-something headmates and a daemon, though he won't be discussed much further in this, mostly from his own wishes. Visual description of our PNG model is long blue braided hair with 3 blue butterflies, purple goggles with yellow and blue lenses, the eyes are purple and golden with black background. Face has crystallized freckles and purple, pink and blue respirator. Ace of spades and ace of hearts earrings, gills on my neck, violet snake on my shoulders with crystallized spots. I wear a black tank top with my blue jacket on my shoulders. It goes dark when we don't speak. Topic list. So our topic list today will be as follows. What is Tulpamancy? Or a tulpa? Some useful terms. And we will discuss a little bit about tulpish and communication. How you can make one yourself, a slight overview. A little bit about popular culture stigma surrounding plurality, tulpas and tulpamancy. And then how they have helped us to become a better person. Introductions to our tulpas as well as how each has helped us. And lastly, why people create them. So, what is tulpamancy? What is a tulpa? Let me tell you. Tulpamancy is a practice of creating a thought form creature called a tulpa, who is a mental companion. Creating one of these beings can be time consuming, but once you figure out a way that works for you, it's going to be easier. My top tip I have seen is this. Look over every creation manual, read them through, throw them in the trash, and do what feels good and right for you. What sets tulpas and headmates apart, in my knowledge, is that tulpas can be outside the body, where headmates usually can't. Tulpas have their own emotions, thoughts, and wills like all headmates do. This is important to know. What is tulpamancy? What is a tulpa? Let me tell you. Tulpamancy is the practice of creating a thought-form creature called a tulpa, who is a mental companion. Creating one of these beings can be time-consuming, but once you figure out the way that works for you, it's going to be easier. My top tip I have seen for this: look over every creation manual, read them all through, throw them in the trash, and do what feels good for you. What sets tulpas and headmates apart, in my knowledge, is that tulpas can be outside the body, where headmates usually can't. Tulpas have their own emotions, thoughts, and wills like every headmate does. This is important to know. What is tulpamancy? Tulpamancy is the practice of creating a mental companion called tulpa. A person practicing tulpamancy is a tulpamancer. Important note: Buddhist roots. Important thing to note here is that tulpamancy, though having roots in Buddhism, is not the same as the Buddhist practices, nor will you need to be Buddhist in order to practice tulpamancy. Meditation is a Buddhist idea, but is absolutely not needed for tulpamancy. But even that is something you do not need in order to create a tulpa. Tulpamancy is its own practice, and over a quarter of tulpas have been created by accident, so they are not culture locked. What is a tulpa? Tulpa is a mental companion. It's one of the many thought form beings, its close counterpart being egregore, a sentience made by multiple people, where tulpa is made by one. Tulpas versus imaginary friends. What sets tulpas and imaginary friends apart is that imaginary friend is just a puppet. Think of your childhood, if you will. We used to have a dragon imaginary friend as a kid, but she did as we told and didn't have her own sentience. Tulpas have their own sentience, will and thoughts, emotions, dreams, idols, hobbies, and so on. They are their own person as any headmate, though the amount of as to how the tulpa behaves is on how much freedom you want to give them. I have given full freedom for my tulpas, so they are free to be their own person. They also have their own relationships, likes and dislikes that differ from ours. Useful terms. One of the most important terms in tulpamancy is forcing. Forcing simply means interacting, talking, or being actively aware of the tulpa in order to develop them. So it's like bringing them out of your mind. It's quote-unquote fake until you make it situation. Active and passive forcing. I prefer passive, doing something while thinking about them. Active forcing is when you dedicate time to focus solely on your tulpa while possible distractions are avoided. Passive forcing is basically multitasking. You can do chores, food, or an essay or something while talking to a developing tulpa. Narrating. Narrating is something most people do, especially in the beginning. Narrating is when you, narrate things to your tulpa. It's a common form of passive forcing and is considered a key part of tulpa personality development. It's also when host speaks to and thinks of their tulpa throughout the day. Wonderland. Wonderland is a mind space for tulpas to live inside your mind. Kinda like a mind space or a mind palace. Puppeting and parroting. Puppeting simply means using your underdeveloped tulpa as a puppet in order to develop them. Parroting is speaking as them online or in your head. I personally use parroting method as quote-unquote chat as this underdeveloped tulpa and try to figure out how they would react. But I do this only with my friends whom I trust. Tulpish. Tulpish is the default Tulpa language. The way of quote-unquote speaking Tulpish is projecting raw emotions, images, feelings and so on into each other's minds. My tulpas could remind me to have a water break by giving me a visual of a water bottle. Tulpish is sometimes hard to decipher, but we have managed it pretty well. I can understand how each one communicates, and as a bit of a seasoned tulpamancer, deciphering personal tulpish is not an issue. But the difficult part is trying to figure out what someone else's tulpa is trying to communicate, because I do not know what everyone associates with everything. Communication with a tulpa is pretty much the same as with other people. If it lacks something, it needs to be fixed. How can you make one? A short guide. Making a tulpa is not as difficult as one might think. The best advice I have heard of is read everything you can find, every guide, every small piece of advice you can find. Then throw them into trash. Make your own way using what has resonated with you. How I have made mine is simple. I start with an outlook, and then I just begin forcing. I push them out of my headspace and, I begin narrating. Passive forcing, writing as they would. It usually takes a long time or a short time. For me, the usual amount of time I need is a week or so, and I have 80% formed tulpa myself. So, for some it might take weeks, months or even years. It depends really on how active you are when creating your tulpa. Stigma. Just like everything nowadays, the stigma around tulpamancy is big. Tulpas are demonized. They are seen as evil, power-hungry beings who will turn against their creators. Think of how many times you have seen plurality as a whole being demonized. Go on, I will wait. See, tulpamancy is a form of plurality, but is just as heavily stigmatized, if not even worse. How many times have you guys seen someone ask online, will alters try to harm me, or something? I can count with my both hands how many times I have seen that question myself. And that's just scraping the surface. Popular culture has shown us time and time again that what it doesn't understand is fully demonized. Tarot cards and Ouija boards are just two of the examples of demonized things along tulpamancy. I personally believe that all this could be avoided if people didn't blindly believe in horror stories / movies. My cousin once was the same way. She recently learned as I'm writing this that tulpas are not actually evil and are very helpful beings. I do not want you to walk out of here with the "it was said in a webinar so it's true" mentality either. I want you to go look at what it actually is, because this is just a small part of everything. Our personal experience, the stigma is bunch of nonsense. The whole demonizing feels bad to us. Tulpas aren't evil beings at all. Like every other argument, it can be fixed with a little secret sauce called communication. How they have helped me and will help you. Last summer, when I created my first tulpa, it was the most difficult summer. I won't go into much into detail, but I lost my whole friend group. So, I did what someone in that group told me not to do the whole time we have been friends. Created a tulpa. This tulpa was my savior. She saved my life. She gave me will to live again, to experience things and see with my own eyes. Until then, I had felt like a puppet. Someone to be toyed with, someone to be discarded when you find something better. But after successfully creating a tulpa, I am learning to live on my own again. I am learning to be my own person, and I'm loving it. I must admit, creating a tulpa just because you feel lonely is not a good idea. But I had no other choice almost. I had given up everything, but I was given a second chance. This second chance came in the form of a little mothling, and that little mothling is still here. Everyone is different, and nobody can say they are experiencing the same, so make your own choices and research. So, you ready to meet ours? Ours are Ace, he, him, Axel, he, they, Keegan, he, she, her, Arthur, he, him, Darcy, they, them, Theo, he, him, Knox, she, her, and Owen, they, them. Ace and Axel. Ace is an 18-year-old Tulpa's child of ours. He has a twin brother called Axel. Ace is autistic. He has sensory issues with loud noises, bright lights, and some textures are a pain, according to him. He likes the taste of cigarette smoke, as smoking calms his nerves. Ace is very much an introvert who doesn't like being outside or hanging out with his siblings much. His respect is earned, not gained by default. We learned this information the hard way. He can be anxious at times, it sometimes bleeding over to others. Axel. Axel is an 18-year-old Tulpa child of ours and is Ace's twin brother. He is usually very ambiverted. He doesn't enjoy being on his brother's shadow since Ace's autism is taking a lot out of others. He wishes to be noticed sometimes. He's pretty chill otherwise. He enjoys sunshine, long walks on the beach and swimming. He dislikes the smell of cigarettes, but will tolerate them in order to keep his brother calm. He loves to be in the nature, despising winter because of the cold weather. He enjoys trading card games like Magic the Gathering and Pokemon TCG. Keegan, Arthur, and Darcy. Keegan, or Key for short, is one of the triplets, the oldest sister. She enjoys nature walks and doesn't want me to tell anything else. Arthur is the middle brother of the triplets. He enjoys music and being on his own. He is a bit of a lone wolf, but enjoys Key's and Darcy's company a lot. Darcy asked me not to write an introduction to him, so we respect that. Theo, Knox, and Owen. Theo is a sea creature Tulpa. He started as a sea serpent, but is now more of a kraken than a serpent. He started as the youngest of all, but is now the third youngest. He is quiet, calm, and polar opposite to his sister Knox. He is a little shy, but loves water in all of its forms. He gets excited when he gets to a pool or a lake, preferring natural water instead of chlorine one. He's a very smart kid and good at puzzles. He loves fishes and wants to be a marine biologist. He also likes playing Subnautica. Knox is the second youngest of the Tulpa siblings. She is the one who has modded herself the most. Started as a mothling child, she has evolved and grew to be a beautiful young girl. She's a very chaotic, loud, and creative persona. She has ADHD, which is very much visible due to hyperactivity. Even though she is very hasty and fast, she won't hurt anyone on purpose. She loves science and wants to learn everything she can about the stars and space. She's also slightly curious about witchcraft, though a little scared. Owen is the youngest of the Tulpa siblings. He is very shy and energetic kid. He is 10ish years old and enjoys his juice boxes. He is very lovable and will do his best to take care of everyone. He also has a little club called the Juice Box Club. So, why do people create tulpas? The easy answer is for companionship. Some even might just want to try it out, though that's not a really good idea. Tulpas can be a permanent companion, so make sure you know what you're getting into before doing some messing around. Some people also have accidental tulpas. Like stated earlier, about a quarter of tulpas are formed accidentally from childhood imaginary friends, and so on. Tulpa shifting / possession. It feels like shifting because it is, though with a slightly different name. So what does shifting feel like? I will explain shifting very slightly, as most here probably already know the basics, but in case someone doesn't, so as to what shifting feels like to those who aren't systems, it feels like taking a back seat of the car. You aren't driving, but you are in the car. That's co-conscious. Or you can be in the trunk when you aren't aware of what's going on. Tulpas can also take control of a certain body part and use that. For example, my tulpas like writing with my hands, so that's the only thing they can do. But other than that, we don't really do possession or shifting. It's not something we want. Thank you for listening. This has been the PNG Brassbergs system. Any additional feedback can be given to brassbergs.system@gmail.com, and you might be able to catch us on your favorite podcast platform as Mercer and Reaper Radio Podcast. But now, the Q and the A.